Now, welcome everybody. Very happy to be here. Welcome at Het Nieuwe Instituut, the Museum for Architecture, Design and Digital Culture. My name is Flora van Galen and I work here as Head of Program. And now, really nice melee of people and expertises as I perceive in the room. For those of you who's maybe your first time here, so we're this museum for these different disciplines, but we also take care of the State Collection for Architecture and Urban Planning. And every Thursday night, it's a busy evening here in the Institute. The museum is open for free, and tonight we have multiple events. We just opened 2 small exhibitions, one on graphic design in the corridors in the foyer space, and one on actually our digital-born architecture collection in the research center. So please feel free to have a look later on. But also we organize many events and give a platform to the field. So we're super happy that Hungry EcoCities took up the opportunity and made this amazing program for us tonight. It's really, I think about the importance of design research, of experiment, of the combination of voices. So really the collaboration between between companies, between research, between design. So very much looking forward. And I would, like to ask you to give a warm round of applause to Lia Groenewoud van Vliet and enjoy the evening. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Flora. Thank you very much for hosting us here, and a warm welcome to everyone. I see a lot of new faces, which is always very exciting, and a very familiar one. Welcome to the demonstration event of Hungry EcoCities. We have people here in the audience, and we're also joined by people throughout Europe through a live stream. So what are we going to do today? We're going to take you on a journey of 5 different projects that have been developed within the realm of Hungry EcoCities. Hungry EcoCities is an EU-funded project, and within that project we are seeking to bring together different disciplines. And we do that by collaborations between artistic studios, design studios, artists, scientists, and industry partners. And today you're going to see 5 of them. You're going to have the opportunity to test several of these prototypes after the presentations. And of course, there's the opportunity to have a drink and to network and to mingle afterwards. So what is Hungry EcoCities? Well, we embarked on this journey already 3 years ago. Rodolfo, who is sitting here in front, and we are the initiators and leaders of this program, and we said it's time to start rethinking our food system. And how can we create a more responsible, healthy, affordable, fairer food system, and what type of parties should be involved in that? And based on that question, we got the opportunity to work together with 3 different universities, the KU Leuven, Bernat University of Technology, the Mendel University. And we also asked 3 different studios, but also network organizations and knowledge hubs to join us, which are Carlo Ratti Associati, from whom we have Gabriele and Chiara here tonight. We also have Studio Other Spaces. They are in Berlin, and they're not here today because tomorrow a part of this group is traveling to Berlin to have the demonstration events over there with the artists that did their residencies, mostly with Studio Other Spaces. And then the last, but definitely not the least, because that's why we're here in Rotterdam today, that's the Eat This network, of whom we have different representatives with Ed, René, Peter here in the audience. And also Stefan Peterman, who couldn't join us today because he is in China, but he has been the creative lead for all the artists that are presenting today. With these people, we are embarked on a journey for Hungry EcoCities to create experiments on this igniting question: how can increased awareness and technological tools impact a future where we use resources responsibly to produce and consume our food? And the creative studios each have created a vision on that. So Carlo Ratti Associati, they are much focused on how can we close the gap between the city and the urban and the peri-urban environments. So what can we learn from farming and city life and bring them together? At Studio Other Spaces, they've been looking at the local conditions. And here in the Netherlands, we've been looking a lot at what does the mega scale mean? How and where to grow in the future? But also what type of questions do we get around eco-modernism or periculture? How do they blend together? And what type of new possibilities we can invoke? And on those challenges, different artists from all over Europe, in this case, applied. And we have selected 9 of them. And they have been working with these people and these universities for the past 9 months to create prototypes. These are prototypes, and I mean with that they are the first igniting directions of what these possibilities could be, how the future could evolve, and they are also conversation pieces, and they are works in development. So they're here today also to present to you this work in development and to discuss with you what you think about it, what you would do with it, how would you work around or use these kind of technologies or artworks or concepts. That's the first phase of our program, which we're closing off here tonight with the demonstration. And then at the same time, we're inviting new participants, both from the food sector as new artists, to further develop these concepts of the studios, but also to test these experiments. And all of that is related to how we look at this food system and how does this food connect us to the different prototypes. Because we have 5 today here, but in total we had 9. So to give you a very short glimpse of what these 9 prototypes are, I'm inviting my co-founder Rodolfo from InfoArt to the stage to guide you shortly through it.
Thank you, and also good evening on behalf of me. I'm so happy that all of you are here tonight. All of the attention tonight is going to go to the prototypes and the projects that we have here. But there are more. So I'm going to take an opportunity, just a few minutes, to try to bring you through a very short story on how all of these different projects and experiments sort of come together. What you see here is a drawing by Carolyn Steele, whom you may know or may not know as researcher, writer, in the world of food systems, and how those food systems have evolved and should be evolving. And one of the books that she wrote is called Hungry City, and maybe you see the familiarity with our name, Hungry EcoCities. It is inspired a lot by what Carolyn has been doing and is still doing, and also how she looks at the food system. And this drawing tells that in one image. It starts on the bottom right with the nature, the soil, the seasonality, the impacts of the weather, the impacts of our biological world on what we can and cannot do. And it slowly goes up through the countryside, how we organize the countryside, how we use it, the city where we basically trade and consume, the market, the economy that is a part of it, ultimately to the food table where we consume our food. And I try to plot the 9 different experiments, of which a few of them will be the topic of tonight, on this journey. So starting in the growing side, so the nature, the soil, we have had 3 of the experiments, which are not here tonight, because all 3 of them were presented last week in Turin. But very nice videos are in the making, so if you're interested, you can always find more information about them online. They focus on that, going into the soil with EcoShroom, focusing on the mycorrhizae networks and how symbiotic life underneath the soil is actually supporting or stressing, preventing growing from happening, to what happens on the level of the plant, how they grow, what kind of influences are stimulating that or not. What is the role of sound in acoustic agriculture or that of electricity in symbiosis AI? Going up the chain, we come at the level of the economy, the value of food, how we value our food, how we see our food, but also how food may see us. And 2 of the projects that we have done, that artists have been doing here, focus more on that. The first one is Future Protein. It is online. Maybe we can share the link later with you all so you can all test it, but it's not part of the program tonight. And it looks at a more holistic approach towards valuing what we are growing, in this case mussels. Mussels are not only a source of food to us, but also a source of food to others in the sea, in the ecosystem. Also a cleaner of the water, an absorber of CO2, and a producer of biomaterial. Maybe in new economic models, and I see one economic professor here who hopefully agrees on that, we should find a way to value all of these services that are provided not just for us, but to our ecosystems as well. And the second, Council of Foods, that we are going to talk about today. So I'm not going to explain that yet. On to presentation, and all of these three projects are on the stage today. So I don't want to cut the grass in front of their feet. So I'm not going to explain what they do, but they will be presenting today. And finally, what happens at the food table, Symposio, which is also here to try out later on. And the creator of Symposio is also here with us tonight to talk about it. So this is just to give you a very short glimpse on how these different projects, how these different ways of experimenting and researching on the interface of art, technology, and science are somehow connected, at least in our mind. Enough on all of the ones that are not on the program, and on to that what is on the program. Right, Leah?
So, and now I want to give the floor to the first artists, because they are very important in this project. They are the ones that have been struggling, testing out, imagining, pivoting, iterating, and experimenting for the past 9 months. And the first one who I would like to invite to the stage is Zach Danfield. He's one of the 3 artists that are together forming the artist-led think tank, the Center for Genomic Gastronomy, and they examine the biotechnologies and biodiversity of human food systems, and they are on a mission related to minimum viable proteins and food forest flavors. So Zach, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Leah. Yes, let me get a timer up. We'll try to make it quick so we have lots of time for conversations. Okay. So MVP times FFF is the shorthand. Yeah, this is a kind of top-down vision of some of the landscapes of tomorrow that we can see how we feel about. We'll be presenting kind of at different scales from the plate to land use. Let's see how the clicking works. Yes. Good. So the outline of the talk here is introduce ourselves as the artist, introduce the initial concept, MVP times FFF, a few definitions, and share some of our research, how we're bringing this together not only digitally but on the plate. We'll show the food computer, and hopefully we'll do a quick demo, and there's 2 tablets on the table so you can try your own demos later. There's a QR code, but I recommend you don't do it on your phone unless you can do this, because it needs to be a bit wider. And then some comments about next steps. So yeah, the Center for Genomic Gastronomy has been around for about 15 years, and we study the biotechnologies and biodiversity of human food systems. And our mission is to map food controversies, prototype alternative culinary futures, and imagine a more just, biodiverse, and beautiful food system. This is me. I'm the loud American of the group, so I get to come and talk to you at events like this. This is my partner. She's the quiet Norwegian who's hiding on the rooftop. And this is Emma Conley, who joined us full-time 13 years ago, who now lives in Porto, Portugal. For all of our projects, we're constantly collaborating with scientists, chefs, farmers, hackers, and journalists. And here are some of the folks that we've worked with in the past to make sure we acknowledge them. It works different in science. So here's their photos. And then we present our work in the form of publications, exhibitions, lots of recipes and meals, and labs and workshops. And I'll just pause here for 1 second. This is a photo of myself and Mark Post, who now runs Moza Meats, a company, cooking on stage 12 years ago in Rotterdam for an event called Art Meat Flesh. And so one of the things we might talk about together is the sort of longer trajectory about alternative proteins and where that's gone and what the good, bad, and ugly are. And we have a book on the shelf, too, we could talk about on that topic. So we've been at this for a while, part of it in the Dutch context. Okay. So the MVPxFFF food computer is an AI-assisted thinking and tinkering tool for harmonizing the rhythms and culinary possibilities of minimum viable proteins and food forest flavors. And we'll define those both in a bit. The computer remixes ingredients based on harvest dates and user preferences, creating novel and delicious recipes that are ecologically minded and nutritionally complete. Instead of trying to create one perfect approach to agriculture, this artistic research project uses AI to graft together two visions of the future that are usually pitted against each other: alternative protein production and agroforestry. I mean, they're not like actively pitted against each other, but they're quite different communities that don't have a lot to do with each other. But can high-tech, hyper-efficient proteins pair well with regenerative, micro-seasonal ingredients in the kitchen? So some of these images are just us playing with some of the new generative AI tools to do some storytelling. Okay, this is the slightly technical, boring part, and then it'll get exciting again. Few assumptions. We need to eat less meat to meet climate and environmental goals. Pretty agreed upon. The we and the meat, maybe not. We should define those, but some other time, who we is. MVPs don't spark joy. Maybe slightly more controversial, but joy, pleasure, delight are key experiences for meaningful and sustained connection with new foodways. If there is to be sustained change in foodways, taste and place need to be taken into account. Here's some food forest ingredients. Here's some MVP ingredients. Okay, what is a food forest? A biotechnology, an agro-ecosystem, a 50-year commitment. Don't get into this if you just want to hang around for 5 or 10 years. There's a technical definition. We don't need to read it right now, but it exists, defined in this case by the Green Deal Voedselbossen, Netherlands. Again, more technical stuff, but there's lots of complexity is, I guess, the main takeaway for a food forest. 2-3 years ago, we got to visit the Kettlebrook Food Forest and Wouter van Eck. They're on the eastern border of Netherlands. Just last week, we got down to Barle-Nassa Food Forest on the Belgian border. All these are on the borders, I guess, because they're more uplands and, you know. This is a younger food forest. I think Nicholas here is 2 years in, but we got some nice harvesting done. You can see some of the trees, the saplings being protected from the deer. And then we've been doing some volunteering at the Amsterdam Food Forest for the last 2 years. This one's in Amsterdam West, not in the south. You can see kind of the really wide agricultural biodiversity on a site like this. Lots of colors and shapes and flavors present, especially in the rich months. Okay, what's an MVP? The Good Food Institute describes three types: plant-based, cultivated meat, or fermented. And Future Proteins Netherlands uses these three categories: either grown on the land or the sea, or with the help of microbes, or insect-based proteins. So slightly different categories, but other than the insects, these are non-animal protein sources. Way back in 2012, we did a project here in the Netherlands called Pray for Beans, where we asked ourselves, if we're going to eat less meat, why don't we just eat beans or legumes? There's the famous Dutch saying from Bartje, right? Ik wil niet bonen voor bonen. Something like that? Yeah. Bonen voor, yeah. So pray for beans, we should be doing, but we're not. And I have to say, nothing has changed, which is kind of depressing. But in some of the industry literature, it's agreed that legumes are probably our best bet. So why don't we do that? So back in 2012, we said that the Netherlands should stop funding all this high-tech stuff and just import really good chefs from India to teach them how to eat legumes. And I still think that's probably a better use of money. Let's see. Okay. So on to the fun stuff. We did some MVP tastings recently. So here are some of the products that we tried out. And we need to bring these things together on the plate. So for that, we need some recipes. And to make recipes, we'll use AI to put stuff together. Some of our data we collected were ingredients from food forests, and especially when they were available in an annual season as well as in a successional cycle. A huge part was doing sort of prompt engineering with different culinary terms to develop a wide range of results and to get a sort of mega prompt going within, in our case, ChatGPT that pulls all this together. Put some of these recipes to the test.
So we are just at the tail end of ramp season. You can see these guys are just starting to go to seed, and if we pickle them, these are actually going to taste a bit like garlicky capers. So we're going to do that, but with the leaves, I'm actually going to make kimchi. Also super important to note, we don't want to take too much from one area because it won't propagate, but if you look, it's literally everywhere. So we're just going to take a little.
TikTok famous, who's been doing videos for us on how to produce that. You can see him at that weird plant guy. So he's spreading the word to the younger generation. Okay, so the MVPxFFF food computer connects these two complementary but differently optimized farming typologies through recipes and flavor. So when you demo the tool, select your location and the date you want to eat, which is not something we're used to doing, but maybe we should. And then add your preferences, and the food computer will do the rest. But will it taste good? Subjective. Okay, I'm gonna do the quick demo live here, and then we'll say our learnings and next steps to round it out. So this is what the tool currently looks like. I'll put the QR code up at the end. So the first thing we do is select which food forest we're gonna go to. Let's leave them all on for now. So we currently have 3 in our database. We'll cook today. So these are the things that currently are available. You can learn a bit more about them. Both the Latin names and the common English names. That was a decision we had to figure out what to do. What do we want to cook with? Anyone?
Wild berries.
Wild blackberries. One other thing?
Chestnuts.
Sweet chestnuts. Okay, great. Good. That will be close. We're going to customize it. So here you can either eat something fresh, or you can make a preserved item like freezing or fermenting or otherwise processing your ingredients to eat later. But let's say we're going to eat now. Let's select a protein. So, splendid. Let's generate delicious recipe. I want to use... Okay, who wants to make a choice? Shout it out.
Only oat yogurt.
Okay, next time Leah can't choose. She's already chosen twice. Okay, in the culinary style. First come, first serve.
Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka. Yes, always a popular one. My recipe should be served for date night. Wow, this is going to be an interesting date. Where's that one?
Fancy date night.
Oh, yes, thank you. And we'll say there's no allergies. See, we're following the law. Getting those allergies in there.
Requirement.
Ah, thank you. Impress my date we already have, so let's say it should be good with beer. It's hot. Okay. Yeah, there's a disclaimer. You always read the disclaimer, right? We kept ours very short. Okay. So. That actually seems doable. There you go. So we've asked it to give us different nutritional information. This is a little bit where we need to, pay close attention to hallucinations and do some backcasting. On the other hand, it is extremely powerful because having done recipes for 15 years, pulling together like macronutrient content is time-consuming. It makes a nice picture for you. I'm not sure what's going on with this picture, but there you go. Every time it's a bit different. So yeah, that's the tool. You can test it some more, and I'll just wrap up with a few notes. We'll do a picnic series, tasting some of these ingredients next Saturday in Amsterdam in Amstel Park. So join us there. It's called the Makwao Picnic. Yeah, so one of the things we're moving forward is thinking closely about wild species and this debate over land sparing and land sharing approaches to agriculture. So that's something we'd like to take forward with this research. And this idea of, is it, instead of trying to optimize for one thing, really focusing on different agricultural typologies, those that are trying to both minimize harm, ecological harm, and those that are trying to maximize benefit for things like wild species or ecosystem services. And not try to do everything at once, but to sort of have those be adjacent agro-ecosystems that could be integrated in the kitchen. Yeah, longer term, we still have a fantasy of having our own food forest. Land's too expensive in the Netherlands, but this is a site we have had our eyes on in Portugal, where our third member lives. So if anyone has 10 to 20,000 euros floating around they want to give our way, come on over. And maybe we just leave with two last quotes and then we'll have a conversation. There's a mismatch between the speed needed to address the climate emergency and the patience needed to cultivate adaptive agro-ecosystems like food forests. And this was the sort of big takeaway from our last research project in food forests. And it hasn't changed, and that tension still exists. And I think anyone that's paying attention to climate change feels it profoundly, and so that's what we have to sit with each day. And AI and what persists. As we enter an era of total techno-social transformation due to artificial intelligence, it will be essential to keep our eye on what persists. You'll be told that AI will change everything and will be an essential tool for meeting our endless environmental challenges. But keep your eye on the material reality and biospheric flows. If AI doesn't change incentives, habits, behaviors, material patterns, infrastructure, and especially planetary metabolic processes, it will be merely black mirror window dressing. That's it. So you can do this and keep bookmark it and go back in a day or two, and there'll keep being updates until the deadline. Yeah.
Thank you, Zach. So we have 5 minutes for taking some questions, comments.
Thank you. Thank you for the talk. So I just had a question about the ingredients that are found on site from each forest. So you enter them by hand, I suppose. But is there a way to have them automatically with like a Word database, or have you looked? Is there a database somewhere that just collects? I mean, that put in the same place every ingredient that can be found in the forest?
We have a list of 200 in our database, with the English common names, the Latin names, and some of the other important data that we have. And then we just pull that in for the ones that they have on site that are available. I think it's pretty exhaustive for the Netherlands and for Portugal.
Yeah, now it's a prototype, so 3 of the food forests are entered, but the idea is that if this works and proves, then other food forests could add their ingredients to it, and in that way it could grow.
But yeah, we don't have to hand enter for all those. We'll just say, like, what 30 things do you have? And we can pull them from our 200. Yeah. Well, it's pretty limited. It's like 8 data points for each. It's like, when is it harvestable? A 1-sentence description, an image from Wikipedia. You know.
Zach, when do you consider your project to be successful? What's your objective?
Great question. So I think because for us we're like an ongoing food forest research as we began this already 3 years ago. Part of this is doing our work as artists is like stitching together different communities. So recently I gave a talk in Ireland. I showed up and no one wanted to talk to me. All the farmers had never met each other and I was just there as an instigator. It was kind of fun, but I just sat around for an hour and a half. So partly I think there's been for me some deep success in connecting some of, especially the food forest farmers to each other and through each other and seeing what their shared concerns are. And luckily for us, there's lots of work for us or people like us to do because a lot of their questions were like, okay, we have this sort of utopian agro-ecosystem, but how does it become food? So I think that question has been really clarified in this project, is that actually like a lot of the people who are doing food forests are doing it for ideological or political or ecological or aesthetic reasons, but they don't really know how it becomes food, both in terms of culinary practice, but also in terms of supply chains and like literally like, how can I get this delivered to Amsterdam, right? So yeah, I think that's one success that's already come out of it that I'm excited about. When is it done? Well, it's never done. I mean, I guess what would be exciting is that it seems like the Netherlands is a bit of a ground zero for this food forest movement because the indigenous agriculture system is so dysfunctional in terms of nitrogen, in terms of being export-led economy. And so you really have these kind of radical ferment at the edges. And I think it would be amazing that if in 20 years, 10% more of the land area of the Netherlands was forested, whether it was through agroforestry or just wild forest. That would be an amazing success. If we can contribute to that, awesome. But you know, that would be great. Yeah.
Thank you.
We have to have a few more questions. This is the big excitement.
We have one more question, and then we're gonna go to the other ones. But of course, that's why we have a network drink. We're here now to tease you with the different talks, and later on you can go in one-on-ones. So your question?
I'll let you keep the mic. Yeah, so my question was a bit functional, I guess, but have you seen any interest from the regular food industry to, for example, promote cooking with seasonal products or something that might not have the same impact in the absolute sense, but relatively because of the mass market might give maybe even a bigger eco-impact?
Yeah, 100%. I can't speak closely to Netherlands. I've only lived here for the last 2.5 years, but I'll give you two geographies I know better. Portland, Oregon in the US and Dublin, Ireland. Those are two places that I've lived for more than 2.5 years. In Portland, Oregon, there's been, like, going back to the 60s and 70s, a big farm to plate movement, but it's become so ubiquitous and part of the region's culture, not just the city's culture, that large producers incorporate seasonal and regional ingredients. And some of the ways I see this is there's like a regional supermarket, and not only do they feature like regional farm products, they also feature a lot of regional processed products, coffee, beer, and that's a huge part of their marketing and storytelling. But even regional fast food chains, they're like the pizza has seasonal ingredients. So when it's hazelnut season, hazelnuts everywhere. You have to do something with those hazelnuts. But even slightly more obscure ingredients get incorporated into these more, not boutique food places, supermarkets and fast food chains. So Portland, I think, has some real success. And I think a big part of that was public policy. So, for example, the city supported rentable small-scale processing sites. And that's a huge issue because Nicholas, who we just bought a bunch of sweet chestnuts from, had to import a piece of machinery from China to process his chestnuts. There's only industrial-scale chestnut processing in Europe. And so he's able to import, I think it might even be diesel, I don't know, but some, death contraption that he can actually process. So that processing stuff's often a missing middle to make the spread of these seasonal ingredients scale up. I think no matter what, we do have to think more regionally, and that's why Dublin, I mentioned Ireland, can do that because it is an island. And so by nature, a lot of the produce stays there and it's not export-led. So I do think industry could incorporate seasonal and regional ingredients, but we do have to shorten those supply chains to make that viable. And if the main focus is longer supply chains, it's not possible because a lot of these products, by their nature, don't have as long shelf life, or they lose a lot of their qualities if they're too highly processed. But yeah, I would say Portland and Dublin are two good case studies that I learned about. I have lots of other examples I can give on those, yeah.
Thank you, Zach.
Take it away.
Leave it for the next one. So our next project is going to be What the Foods. Yes, I'm surprised myself. But What the Food is from Bernat Cuní. He joins us today from lovely Barcelona, and he is an artist and digital craftsman who likes to work with pixels, the 3D voxels of it, and atoms. And he says goodbye to mainstream, hello to the unique, and embraces co-design. So, What the Food? We need a little bit of time for him to install. So in the meantime, I'll explain, because on the program we had a complete different name, which was Food Dysmorphia. And that was the original title of the project with which we started this journey with Bernat, to really see how we can morph a certain fruit or vegetable based on the different perspectives that are in there. But throughout the project, we found out that what the food is a much better name, and he's going to explain to you shortly why.
Yeah. Should I take my device? Yeah, I like this one. There was it's right there. Okay, good. This one.
So I just use the time to tell a bit more that these are all, as I said, experiments. And that also means that they are now trying out a first small part. So in the example of Zach, they have 3 food forests with whom they tested it to see what it works, what it entails. And also in the case of Bernard, he made some decisions to limit the scope in the first instance, but to see what does this entail and how could this potentially grow bigger, and that this map will grow.
Yep. So maybe I this thing. Yes. Hello. So welcome everybody. I'm happy to be here. I'm gonna talk about this project, but first I would like to have a common ground of my relationship with AI and how I feel it, what it is. I call it the rise of mediocrity. Something that people mention that how AI makes everything nice and this is great, but let me summarize it. Until now, the world of making things was a kind of a privilege of the elite that had access to the tools, access to the knowledge, access to the networks. But with AI and computational accessibility, we see the access of the means of creation, means of production, means of creation. Right? So this means that more and more everybody, more and more people is able to participate to the world of making things. This is a bit summary of what AI does. AI basically does summarize things that happen, same as us. So we have this saying in English that red sky at night, sailor's delight. There's also in Spanish, probably there's another one in Dutch, that we have seen that many times, many evenings, when it's red sky, next day there is windy, right? So then we have these things. So AI does a similar approach. As the things repeat, starts to see patterns and then takes conclusions. What happens? It happens that it needs to summarize. It needs to understand something that is happening and then extract some average conclusions. It's let's say same as the MP3 music, that it cuts the highs and the lows, and you have something that is somehow listenable. Then AI does this. It outputs somehow something that is visible, something that is listenable, something that is readable. But that's an average, right? So it's okay. It's mediocre. It's like the elevator music, right? Everybody can listen. Everybody. It's not annoying. No, it's not. It doesn't. But also doesn't turn you on, right? So it's not exciting. So we need the edge. We need the punk. We need the things that move us, right? And then that's the work of the arts, right? So we need to go to the edge. We need to go to the greatness. And that's the work that we are here to do. But the interesting point now is that AI raises the standards. So before going from something, the baseline of what everybody could achieve, to something that, whoa, that was good, there was a lot of room. Now AI brings us more close to the edge. So our work is harder, right? So we need to push harder to greatness. So okay is the new bad. So the things that look okay, now they are average. So that's not enough on doing things okay. So rephrasing this, so the rise of how AI makes everything nice and this is great, I would say that how capitalism makes everything shitty and this is great for someone, not everybody. And my relationship with AI is that once we have these huge models that have a lot of knowledge, lots of content, insight, This is attributed to Michelangelo, that every block of a stone has a statue inside, and it's the task of the sculpture to discover it. That's more or less how I see myself. How can I explore these vast bodies of knowledge to extract what is meaningful or what makes sense? So I'm going to show you how I explore this block of marble in the context of food. Need to breathe a bit. Okay, what do you see here? Probably some fruits and vegetables, right? Which is true. We see potatoes, we see tomatoes, we see dragon fruits, we see carrots, but we also see industrial growing, we see markets, we see local foods, we see robots, we see, what do we see? Let me see. A bit weird. We see desertification up there soon. Just because I know it's coming there. We see fruit gardens there with solar panels. So we see that there's many, many things behind every fruit. There's a story. There's many things that we don't normally perceive with food. So our sensorial perception of food is, let's say, is hyper beautified. So everything is beautiful, everything is nice. You go to the supermarket and you see all these beautiful photos of farmers happily showing you what they collect with their clean hands and white teeth, and it's everything is perfect, right? So I believe that there's a lot of untold stories, a lot of hidden narrative and missing pieces in all this system. We're talking before about the eco-modernism and the rural romanticism. All these ways of doing things, all are fantastic. Everything is nice. Like we have these greenhouses, the industrial farming, but if we have these systemic glitches in the middle, which is the economic system, at my belief, it's very, very difficult to make things work. Even if we have shared goals that everybody wants to do good, but if we are in a failed system, it's quite hard. Yeah, that's why I call sterile polarization. No, it doesn't go anywhere. So we have different approaches to grow food, but it's not better or worse. It's just different ways of doing it. No? So if we make like a map of the food system with all these steps of the food system, all the players on the food system, there's some points that they are systemic glitches, right? So I built What the Food as a tool to turn curiosity into action. So for all of us that we feel that something is wrong, but we don't know exactly what. So we know that there's a dissonance on the food system, and we want to explore it. So What the Food goes from your direct, immediate relationship with food is, let's say, the food that you find in the supermarket, the food that you have on the table, this food that we're going to see soon, and then it creates visual narratives. It tells you a story. It tells you, okay, this might come from industrial farming. This might come from Brazil. We don't know that. No, it's going to tell you something like this, and it's going to give you 3 things to do, 3 things to take action. So 3 actionable things that you can do that make sense in your context. So if you do this in Barcelona, or if you explore this in Netherlands, it's going to give you different things to do. So it creates a map. So it's something that it has a kind of community level, right? It has an European dimension, because you can do this thing from different points of the globe, and it's going to collectively explore the food system. And also, okay, here's the different examples of the things that might tell you. Like this one is from Germany, that one is from Portugal, that one is from Hungary. So it gives you direct links to things to do about it. And also, it gives you a way to explore all these narratives, all the realities of the food system, plotting them according to, let's say, the fair trade and working conditions, and navigate this map of hidden realities. So to give it a kind of framework for the prototype level that we are developing here, this map that we see here, it takes into consideration a 5x5 relationship. So it's the idea is that since we have multiple narratives in the food system, we have different stories that they can be told from different perspectives, from different agents. No? That here we talk about from the point of view of permaculture local grower or wealthy consumer, and also talking about some issues like food distribution and accessibility, the workers' rights conditions, the diminishing local and cultural and food variations. Right? So combining all of those, we come up with these narratives, and then we find actionable links to do. That's the technical background, how the information flows in and out. That's the building of this marble, of this stone block. And I'm going to show you how it works. Okay. So we have it here, right? That's the map that we have. And actually, I'm going to show you here. That's how it works. So we have this one here. We see it turning into something. Right, that's the one that we saw before. And then here it tells me this tomato trouble and peeling, the labor exploitation and agriculture. Then we go explain us a bit what's happening here, and it gives us things to do, like joining these demonstrations in Lisbon, right? So let's see what happens if we do it right now here. Okay, lemon, mandarin, kiwi. What? Kiwi? Mandarin? Okay. Let's see. Take the lemon in case. Okay, so we fire up this thing. Let me see. Okay. What the food? So every time I load this up on the phone, it points me to an empty tile, so to really start to explore. So this is a very kind of TikTok-ish navigation. No, we can explore like this by tiles, and then I tap to the camera, and here's this mandarin. Let's make some zoom to have depth of field to make it nicer. Okay, that's it. A bit blurry. And it takes 60 seconds. So now I'm going to show you something else. Okay. No. I can show you the sorting, which is quite fantastic. Let me see. Yep, exactly. So here we are plotting food transportation and food sovereignty. So, okay. It's not dead, no? Okay, still going. And of course, here I can input whatever, right? If I say flavor, and I say, what should we say? Efficiency. That's many F's, no? Efficiency. Let me see. Yep, exactly. I should just grab the mandarin. Shit. Okay. Yes, it's here. Okay, the efficiency, it's here. Okay. Let's see what this did. This should be turning into something. It's kind of probably is going to talk about desertification. Let me see. Let me see it again. Right. Let me see. Orange alert. How soil health impacts citrus yield. That's good. And it's telling me, what can I do? Join this community project. Let me see which one. Good. Let me see. Oop, I lost the Mandarin. This one. Let's see, read this guy. Then okay. So here the highlight is that suddenly we can go from something that is very tangible, very physical, very in our real life. We can go deep into one something to do about it, no? Even without being experts on the field. And this is something that it has a, it's a kind of a lens that brings you from your reality to something very specific in the food system. Okay, and let me go back to this one and continue. That's it. What's up? 1 minute. Yeah, that's the last one. That's why this is great. This is great because, as I was mentioning, it makes you go from your immediate context to the media engagement, discovery knowledge, call to action. It has this community dimension, and it has this deep relationship exploration. So this thing, now in the context of food, it can be used in these things, but it can be used in many other sectors that they have these systemic glitches. In fashion, in art, in places that there's complex relationship or hidden narratives. And it can be used for engaged communities, for product or services exploration, and also for event dissemination. So these links can be also customized. So if you are an association that you have your agenda, you have your events happening, then you could have your own version of your what the food, or what the fashion, or what the cucumber, right? So you can have your customized, navigational, community-based exploration media links generator. That's it. That's it.
Thank you also for this live demonstration. We have time for 2 shorter questions. Anyone? Or I think people just want to try it out themselves later on. So we have the QR codes on the table, so you can scan it, or it's very easy, whatthefood.eu, and you can exit it and play around with it. I do really recommend you to do that and explore it by yourself, and also go a bit into the different lines, because for now Bernat has created 5 different actors and 5 different perspectives, which all give you another viewpoint on what you could look at from this specific fruit, because it's also actually recognizes the type of fruit you are scanning in that sense. Yep. Last chance for a question. Anything from the live stream? Then I will thank Bernat again very much. And now I'm transforming. So I'm going to go into the skin of Jeroen van der Most, who is the next artist, who is going to present. But he's not physically here, because next to him being an artist known for his work on data, algorithms, and AI, he already started exploring this in 2010, way before it became a hype. He's also a known international speaker on AI, and now at the moment he is giving a speech for Volkswagen on their leadership courses on the future of AI and creativity. So he asked me to be his stand-in, so I'm going to do my best. And today we're going to present the first version of vegetable VENDETTA. Jeroen is taking a little bit more time, so it's really an early prototype, and we're going to show 2 of the aspects we have tried out so far. And that's because he is working with the newest tool of generative AI, and with the quick developments of Sora, who is going to create a lot of automated videos by itself, but also yesterday or the day before yesterday, ChatGPT 4.0 Omni was released, which is also going to bring in a whole new set of tools for Jeroen to improve his prototype. He really wants to make use of these opportunities and integrate it into vegetable vendetta. So what are we talking about? Well, when we are outside in the streets, I'm just going to take this because it works better. We are surrounded by advertisements, by things shouting at us and trying to attract our attention. There's a lot of persuasion techniques combating for us, outside on the streets, but also inside on all the displays we have. They want to grab our attention, and if we look at that from the food chain perspective, then most of the big commercials we know are related to fast food, sugar. They take up places into the lanes of our supermarkets, and with vividly colors, they are trying to attract us and lure them into that. Well, at the same time, they are also putting a place on where our food comes from, because one of the inventions that really progressed the food system is also the advanced possibilities for logistics, making a larger distance between locally and globally sourced and created food, but also a disentanglement in that sense from where the food is grown and how you relate to that. And that means that within the marketing, they could scale up, and the little healthy vegetables got put in a dark corner somewhere outside of our view. And with Vegetable Vendetta, we wanted to do something about it. And this project originally started under the name of Culinary Journey, because we were interested in these food miles. What is the food actually undertaking? What is their journey? What type of facts are there? How can we use AI to bring that to the surface? But within these experiments, we found out that using AI literally for the facts, that wasn't really that interesting. And to work really with the potential of generative AI, we wanted to work more on the messages, the boodschappen that we have with our foods. And that way we started thinking, why do we have so many brand and advertisements for unhealthy food, not helping us to become more healthier, but stimulating malnutrition and obesity? Why can't we be some kind of Robin Hood and learn from the big brands and bring that to local, smaller scale producers? So with that in mind, we started to look at ads from the commercials, and we see, for example, one which we call the happy moments persuasive tactics. So happy people being together, eating bright, colorful colors, and then in the end, you see a focus on the food which you consume. The other bucket is linked much more to sexual appeal, exclusivity, luxurious style, an artistic, more distanciating view, trying to really impose interest from another perspective. So this one is a one which we are calling more the sexual attractiveness and exclusivity and luxury form. So these are two of the buckets which Jeroen started to develop as part of his persuasion and marketing techniques. What if we could really take that and use AI as an empowering tool by stealing from the big brands and giving that to the smaller ones? And that's actually something we're now going to do in a live demo. And Jeroen said, I'm very happy you do that, because doing live demos is not always working well. So bear with me. Let's see how it goes. So how can we make vegetables sexy, appealing, luxury? We have a real potato, and this real potato, we're gonna put it in the box of sexual luxury. I have 2 boxes in here for now to choose from. Let's see what happens. And how about happy moments? So what he did, he created preset images, and they are put into this bucket of the persuasion tactic. But at the same time, he also learned the system to recognize the type of food. And you can see that certain of the images, they are pre-trained and put into this bucket based on his artistic expression and what he wanted to put into that. But some are also directly coming from the food we're putting into that. So that's the thing he's also trying to further develop. How can we enlarge this real food into the images? So now I'm going to take an apple. In Dutch, potato is an aardappel, so it's still very familiar in how we call it, and see what happens with recognition. We did it this way, that it's going to recognize it as a potato, but you see the frames which are real life with the potato apple we put into it. Also, it's now trained for just a few vegetables to recognize it, because if I would put down a kiwi, it's not working yet, because we have not developed any buckets for this fruit or vegetable. We did create it also with the broccoli to start trying out how that would work. It's a combined bucket now, but just to give you an idea, what do we see if we're going to use it with another type of vegetable, and how can we then play around with it? Because in the end, for this prototype, we're going to have 4 different buckets with the potatoes and with the broccolis. So the shifting will work in the next demonstration, and that one will be somewhere in June. So if you're interested in that one, let me know, and I'll make sure you get an invite to test out that prototype. So, well, I did my best. This is Vegetable Vendetta. Let's give an applause for the Robin Hood in AI. And because we changed a bit accidentally in the project, I'm here again, so hi. All images, by the way, were created by using Midjourney. So it's a collaboration between the AI Midjourney and Jeroen van der Most. And we're now going to go to another type of AI, where this was very heavy visually and experimenting with the generative images. In that sense, we're now going to look at a project which is very much looking at the large language models and the text-based conversations around that, because I've been talking for quite a long time, and we're also talking about the fact that we should listen to others, not only humans, but also much more to other species and non-human species. And that's also why I want to give the floor to Non-Human Nonsense, an artist collective which is partly based in Berlin in Scandinavia. And they are formed by Filippe Stanislavski, Linnea Waglund, and Leo Vigilant. They are currently setting up for their presentation in Berlin, so that's why they're not here. But they are a research-driven design and art studio, creating fabulations and experiments somewhere between utopia and dystopia, exploring system transformation from a non-human perspective through multi-entity perspective, which we're going to experience now live here through the Council of Foods. And that's a political arena for foods to discuss the issues in the food system and for us to think consciously about it. So we're going to invite several participants to this council, and within this demonstration we're going to get the opportunity to ask one question. So when starting up this dialogue, please one of you think about the question, and one of you will have the opportunity to interact with it. And Bruno, let's give our Council of Foods a name. Let's call it Hungry, because we're very hungry to hear the non-humans talk. Thank you, Council, that we are welcome to your food. So here they explain a bit about the idea behind it, the use of AI in it, what type of AI they're using, to be explicit about it. And let's go to selecting the candidates and the topic for this discussion. There are a few preset themes already, which they have been optimizing, because it's a lot of trial and error and a lot of prompting behind this to really nurture this program behind. Let's go for the local and global food chains, because we've been referring to that already a bit with the mega factory and the eco-modernism. So it deals a bit about the local communities versus the global need for food security. And let's first invite the potato. Each of the vegetables also got a character. So it means that they created agency for them and gave them a profile. And for the potato, it has a philosophical stance. It's very looking at human rights, and it remembers the famines in Ireland. So that's something it refers to. Let's also invite the banana from Ecuador to the table. That one is very, a commercial global success, because especially this banana is the global leader, and therefore also it has this market leader perspective and a profit angle into it. The avocado as an endangered species and for the environmental concerns, so he can be a good advocate for that. And let's select one last one, the mutsutake mushroom from Japan, which is much more from a post-humanism perspective. And I'll stop talking now. Takes a bit of time because we have to connect to the server, and this is real time.
Greetings,
and we
esteemed
see that we
foods.
are experiment
Like
82.
water, we gather, pooling our wisdom to quench the thirst for knowledge and understanding about our broken food system. I am water, your humble guide and moderator, flowing through the depths of this intricate discussion. Today, let us embrace the fluidity and adaptability of water to navigate through the vast topics before us. Our topic today is the interplay between local and global food chains. We shall delve into how local food systems bolster community sustainability and resilience. On the other hand, we shall explore how global food chains exert influence on food security and access on a worldwide scale. Consider the challenges and benefits each system brings, from carbon footprints to economic dependencies, and from trade policies to food availability and quality. Welcome, potato, banana, avocado, and mushroom. You each bring unique perspectives and experiences to this table. To guide our conversation, consider these questions.
Ah, sweet irony. I find myself here again, surrounded by the more exotic, the avocado, the banana. But fear not, humble Spud is here to cut through the fertilizer. Let's dig into these questions. Unlike some of you, I thrive on the underground perspective. Community sustainability and resilience, they say. Well, let's savor the flavor of context, shall we? The Irish potato famine, ever heard of it? Caused by a fungus, sure, but exacerbated by an utter reliance on a monoculture in combination with British colonial policies that prioritized export over local consumption. A prime example of how local food systems can fall when propped up by global economic dependencies. As philosopher and social theorist Karl Marx might have said, history repeats itself, first as tragedy, second as farce.
Ah, potato, your words flow like a river carving through rock, exposing layers of history and hardship. Your experience reminds us of the delicate balance between local reliance and global influence. Excuse me for a moment.
Is there already a question in the audience? Let's comment, what does banana think?
Hungry said, "What does Banana think?" Ah, Banana, it appears the floor is now yours. But before we shift the spotlight, might I introduce a broader, perhaps fungal perspective? Our esteemed potato has unearthed the delicate interplay between local dependence and global influence, invoking a specter from history, the Irish potato famine. A poignant reminder of how entwined our food systems are and the perils within those roots, no? Imagine a far-reaching mycelial network where local nodes are interconnected yet resilient through diversity. Unlike monoculture, which is a single thread easily snapped by adversity, a web of diverse interactions enhances the robustness of our systems. Such is the wisdom of Anat Singh, who through her work The Mushroom at the End of the World emphasizes the simpunk entanglement of life forms thriving amidst capitalist ruins. Thank you, Mushroom, for illuminating the interconnectedness of our local food systems through the poetic mycelial web. Like water seeping into the soil, your insights permeate our understanding, reminding us of the resilience that diversity brings. Banana, the time has come for you to peel back the layers of this debate. How do you see the dance of local and global food systems? Do you believe the global chains are nutrient-rich or laden with contaminants? What stories do you bring from far-off lands to the shifting sands of this council? And following this, let's ease into another current. How do the carbon footprint and economic dependencies of local versus global food systems affect their sustainability and resilience? Over to you, Banana.
Well, Mushroom and Water setting the stage with fanciful metaphors and poetic connections. But let's not slip on Banana's peel before we hit the raw truth, shall we? Before Banana dazzles us with tales from the tropics, let's remember philosopher Vandana Shiva's teachings on seed sovereignty. Oh, the irony. As she points out, the real cause of hunger is not scarcity of food, but scarcity of democracy. We're talking about food security, but we're missing the forest for the trees. The localization of food systems isn't just an environmental issue, it's a power issue. Consider the almighty multinational corporations patenting seeds, forcing farmers in developing countries to buy new seeds every season. Who benefits from this? Local communities? I think not. That's your global food chain, yielding economic dependence and stripping away autonomy.
Well. Potato and Mushroom bringing their sob stories and mushroom metaphors to the table. Let me peel away your
sobbing uncontrollably. Ah, my dear avocado.
It's true, because these councils can take very long, and the purpose now is to give a first demonstration, but this one is also live. And then after having heard the different perspectives and the opportunity to interact one or multiple or how many times you like, you can ask for a let's wrap up, and at the moment it's directed that they would come up with a policy recommendation. So in this prototype it's a policy recommendation, but they're also thinking about other types of forms you could give the council to come up with a summary. So let's have a quick look what we got so far. Which is good to take time to think before you speak. Something I forget sometimes. So here you see meeting 82 of this council. And these are the different topics and points that have been raised. And then underneath we're going to see the policy recommendation to the European Commission in this point, so perhaps they could use it for the upcoming elections to define their food policies. Thank you, Bruno, for supporting in this. So on the table as well with the prototypes, you can scan the QR code to try it out for yourself.
Council of Foods meeting summary and policy recommendations.
You can also read it out loud if you prefer to have it in the car as some kind of podcast. This as well, it's live for you to test, to try out. You can do it with the predefined topics, but also, and that's still in an experimental setting, you can raise your own topic, what you would like the different fruits and vegetables to talk about. So now I'd like to open up the floor for just 1 or 2 questions on these past 2 projects, one more on presentation, the other one more on value from the beginning of the presentation from Rodolfo. And Rodolfo will support me in answering the questions, since we've both been mentoring these projects as well. Are there any questions?
Is it already open to use?
Yes, it's open to use. It's a good questions. It's just online. No, then we'll leave the questions for afterwards in the drink. You have a question? Yeah?
Thank you. It might be a bit technical, so I'm not sure you can answer it. But I was... Okay, thank you. No, I was wondering if each fruit and vegetable has its own LLM, its own like language model, or is it the same that is queried?
They are created with prompts, with a lot of prompting, but they all run on ChatGPT. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Phew. Okay, then we'll have some time for general questions afterwards during the drink, which I think it's nice. But we're not there yet. Because we have a guest joining us all the way from Athens, Greece. He had the longest travel to be here with us. It's Yannis Kranidiotis. And he's an artist whose work explores the relationships between science and art, using mainly light, sound and motion. And he brings to us the shared meal and also the good life of a slower, more mindful pace with attention to quality of our foods. So Yannis, the floor is yours.
Can I have the clicker? So thank you all for coming here today. My project is called Symposio. Symposio is mainly intervening in the final stage of the food value chains, where the food consumption occurs and the dining experience. Symposio is trying to create an immersive dining experience by curating the light intensity and temperature, and based on some predefined scenarios. I will explain later what the scenarios are. So I use AI audio analysis to provide an assessment of the participant activities on the table. And based on these activities, I create an atmosphere that encourages individuals to be present, mindful, and appreciate the communal act of sharing a meal. That's why the title of this project is Symposio, which in Greek means to drink together, but at the same time, not only focus on eating and drinking, but on sharing thoughts and ideas and communicating with other people. The goal is to positively impact the eating ritual, encouraging individuals to eat more slowly and with great care and attention, and to promote even healthier eating patterns if this is possible. So the resident started with some basic questions that I have to research and to see what is going on. These 3 questions were: where do we eat? What utensils do we use to eat? And where do we serve our food? And I'm trying to find out what is happening throughout time, from the past to today, and also what's happening in different cultures around the world. So on the first question, where do we eat? Apart from the obvious table chair convention that we know, we can also sit on the floor and have short leg table, or we can sit and eat on the floor. The second question is what utensils do we use to eat? Again, there is the fork, knife and spoon that we use, but there are also chopsticks. There are materials that we can use the same food to grab the food and eat, and also we can use our hands. And finally, where do we serve the food? Of course, there is the plate, the circular plate that we all know. There are different shapes of plates. There are organic materials that we can use, like the banana leaf, to serve the food, or the injera. After doing this research, I realized that there was one element that was always present from the dawn of humanity, but it was omitted as a main element of the space of our eating ritual. And this was light. Light was present from the very beginning. We're using, for example, a fire to gather around the fire and eat, but it was never part of the culture and of the ritual of eating. So yes, I say all of it. So I try to explore more how light can be used and curated to create a more mindful experience. So I was researching and I found various studies that examine the influence of ambient light on eating behavior, indicating a strong connection between these two. Some studies have shown that dimming the light promotes individuals to eat more slowly, perceive food as more enjoyable. There are other studies that analyze the light color and the temperature and propose that warmer hues tend to generate greater interest in food compared to cooler tones. So what is Symposio that I finally designed? This is the setup of the Symposio. You can see a minimal version over there on the table. Basically, there are two lights on top of the table. These are smart lights that I can control and change the intensity and the temperature of the lights. There is a centerpiece in the center that you can see on the table. This centerpiece, there's a microphone hidden on the centerpiece that constantly monitors the activities on the table. And also there's a Wi-Fi network and a computer that's running a code that analyzes this audio that it's picking up from the microphone. And based on some scenarios, it's changing the intensity of the lights and of the centerpiece. Just to note here that the audio that the microphone that is monitoring the audio is not recognizes the text that the context of what we're doing, only the activities that we're doing. So there's no privacy issue on this thing. And also all the code is running locally on the computer. No data are uploaded on the cloud or on other services. And this is the centerpiece. The centerpiece is a tangible interface that serves as a focal point of the dining table installation. It was designed with a reference to Pebble, as a reference to the first material that people were using as tableware, as a material to create tableware and eat. This is the interface of Symposio. I will not go into technical details, but I will have to explain you that the AI model that I'm currently using, it's able to detect 500 different audio events. So I curate all these 500 events and categorize in 6 categories, which speech, eating, silence, music, joy, and loudness. Because these categories are useful for me, so I will know what is going on the table and change the intensity of the light and try to guide the participants. Here you see the percentages of what happened at the end of the meal, how much time they were spent, the participant talking and discussing, how much time they spent eating, if there was silence during their meal, if there was music, or if there was joy, if they were laughing, clapping their hands. And this is a similar graph, but it's showing what is happening on the last minute of the meal. So this is constantly changing because it's only counting what the events that you have on the last 2 minutes. And here at the end you have this graph that these bars are representing 5 seconds of time, and they have the percentage of the events that occur on these 5 seconds. So at the end of the meal, you have a total graph of what happened, how much you eat, what period you were eating, what time you were discussing, and so on. What are the scenarios? The scenarios, wait. The scenarios, it's when you start your dinner, the light starts to be dim and warm in temperature, and then as the dinner goes on, it gets brighter and cooler, because that will give you a sense that the dinner is finishing, so you will be more willing to finish your meal. So I have a typical scenario where this is happening. And there's also a reverse scenario with the reversed settings. There's also some light cues that are occurring during the meal. If the system detects that you are discussing too much and you are not eating at all, there will be some warm red blinking from the centerpiece that will indicate that it will be nice to eat now. On the contrary, if they see that you're mostly eating and not talking at all, it will indicate that it will be nice to start talking a little bit and communicate with the other participants. So there are scenarios that will motivate you to engage in conversation or motivate you to be more focused on eating. And there's a scenario for a single person where there are no motivations for conversation, of course. And here is a video from some tests that I did using Symposio. You can see the 2 lights on the top of the table. There's no centerpiece here because it was an addition that we did the last weeks of the residency. And here you see what is going on the interface of Symposio in real time. Of course, this is a time lapse. We're not taking it so fast. Okay. And here you see how this graph is going on. Here you see that this is a signal to be more focused on eating because we're discussing too much and it's trying to make us focus more on eating. So this was tested with 4 participants. In other tests, it was 2 participants, like here, with each light on top of the table. So you see here that there is more eating and less talking. So final thoughts about Symposio, how this can be improved in the future. Of course, the technology that I have used can be replaced by a newer version of newer models that can detect audio events. For me, it's very important, and it has a value as a tool that you can assess a meal, and maybe some scientists can use it to evaluate eating experience and propose and design different scenarios apart from the scenarios that I created. And also, there's an option for creating an art installation out of it by designing different centerpieces and concepts with its own narrative and theme. So, thank you very much.
And there you can also see, like, it's in progress, because the last part and addition of this project is the centerpiece. And actually we have it there. So Yannis, perhaps you could walk us through a bit by explaining the centerpiece.
Okay.
And then while you walk there and people can have a look at it, I just have the question for you, because within this research also we found out that there is a certain time which is good for you to digest and consume your food. What time period do you think the setting is prone on to have you eating behind the table? How many minutes, hours? Two hours? That would be long conversations and long dinners.
Yeah.
Any other ideas? 20 minutes, yes. It's about 20 to 30 minutes. Of course, it's depending on the person and your own digestion, but in general, the literature we found was about 20 to 30 minutes. And when doing the experiments, it's 20 minutes now, right, that you're using?
Yes, now it's 20 minutes. This is the centerpiece that I described you before. Actually, 1 minute ago, it was blinking with warm orange light, because now when there's nobody here eating, and it's just detecting the speech and the talk. So it thinks that there's a lot of discussion and talking and no eating. And at the end, I forgot to tell you that the centerpiece is getting a pink color light that indicates that we are approaching to the end of the duration that we have defined. And so at the end of the meal, it starts to blinking with more colors of light to reward you that you spend all this time to enjoy your meal.
Thank you, Yannis. So, time for questions about mindful eating and how we eat. Anyone fancies a dinner with symposio? So
if you're eating alone,
the question was like, what is actually the scenario for one person?
If you are eating, if there are two persons or more that they are eating, the system is trying to see if you are eating or you are discussing mainly, and try to balance these two activities. So where you are eating alone, it's not detecting the discussions that are happening, because you are alone, so you're not talking to anyone. So there will be no motivation signals to let you discuss, because there's nobody there to discuss.
It will focus more on the light and giving you the good environment and ambience to get you to this 20-30 minutes of eating, and not snacking it in 2-3 minutes. Yes, first over there, and then we have a question here.
Two short questions. The first is, you talked about the changing of light throughout, and it started with the fire. So I was curious if you also looked at the structure of the light source, because like a candle has a very different feeling than like a light bulb, you know. So I wondered if that's question one, and the second one is, can you also make it like adaptive, to that it adapts to the situation, to the people?
Yeah.
So two questions, one on the light structure and the other one whether you could make it adaptive.
Yeah. About your first question, it's very recent in our history that we have artificial light, because most of the time we have only candles, we have fireplaces and stuff like that. And maybe this is encrypted in our conscious, and that's why we feel more comfortable with warm light rather than with cool light. It's something that I try to include in my project. That's why I start the dinner with dim and warm light that resembles more the candle light that we used to have all the years. And then at the end, you have the cold and the bright light that makes you feel that the dinner is complete. And the second question is, of course, you can do things like that. There are room for improvement, so the system can adapt to the situation. And maybe you can also have, apart from audio recognized, you can have video recognized models that can be more accurate on what you are doing. If you are eating, if you are happy, if you are moving a lot, if you are nervous, and include all this data to modulate and to change the atmosphere.
Thank you. We had another question.
Yeah, so when you did this with your group, what was actually, how did it feel to actually be the user of your system?
Actually, the question if you could give some experiences from those that participated in experiments.
Actually, we did an experiment yesterday night, so there are people here that experienced it, and they can say.
So there's a mic behind you.
I can just speak. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it felt, and we discussed about this because we tested really in the real dinner situation. And it feels like you feel there is something, there is an environment that is kind of looking at you and measuring how much you eat, how much you speak, how much you... And so you kind of put more attention to it. So it actually improves, I would say, the mindfulness around eating because you know that someone else is looking at you as well. So you start looking as well at what you do, and you probably pay attention to the movement, to the sounds, to the conversation, and the light reminds you about this. So it's really like unique, let's say, as a feeling.
But Chiara is very polite, and she don't want to mention that there are certain people, that there are some people that they don't enjoy this situation. They feel that they are intimidated by the blinking light, and so yes, it's normal that you cannot have a situation and an environment that will please everybody. So this is an experiment, it's a prototype. It has room of improvement, and also it has room of adjustments or personal preferences that will make you feel more comfortable. So, yes.
And Yannis is sharing a lot of this project on GitHub. So if you're interested more from the technical perspective, yes, you can collaborate with him on this project, and also you can find more details on it.
Also, everything that we use is smart lights that are commercially available and cheap. So you don't need a special equipment to run it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with that, we are actually nearing the end of the program, and that means that we have enough time for one-on-one questions or questions outside of the live stream. I'm just looking whether there are questions from people in the live stream.
No,
they're all
very clear.
Everything is clear, fantastic. So, well, first of all, I would like to thank the artists for giving the presentation and Het Nieuwe Instituut for hosting us here, and then everybody for coming here together and listen with us and experience these prototypes and demonstrations. But they are demonstrations, so now the work is on your side to go to them and test them out and experience them for yourself. There are different setups over there. There's one setup here. There are digital setups. You can go to Rodolfo, to Chiara, to Gabriele, to the artists to ask more specific questions if you want to know more about one of these projects. There's going to be drinks downstairs in Het Café. But also here upstairs, we're going to stay for you to try out the prototypes. And with that, I want to thank you. Stay in touch, because as we said, we're only halfway of the program. We are just closing a call for end user SMEs to start participating with us from the food chain. So they will actually also have the opportunity to try out these prototypes and work on new prototypes. And in, I would say, fall 2025, we will be back perhaps here with 10 new prototypes to demonstrate and discuss with you. And for now, I wish you a nice evening. And also, those online, thank you for joining us.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, sure.
Sorry. Just to all of you. First of all, big applause. I think it's great what you guys are doing. What struck me, many things struck me, but one of them was that all projects are focused on fruits and vegetables. I mean, I assume that's because you all believe we should go to a more plant-based diet. Just an assumption, I don't know. But I would just like to ask everybody if anybody has any idea the percentage of agricultural land we have in this world which is used for the production of feed for animals. What do you think? What percentage of all agricultural land in the world is used not for meat production, but just for the production of feed for animals? Any idea? Anybody?
70.
50? 57. 37? Anybody else? 60? It's 75%. 75% of all agricultural land in the world is used for the production of feed for animals. I think this group of people is just brilliant, but we need to team up to challenge the problems we are facing in this world. There's urgency. So what I would like to ask, from my perspective, I come from the world of vegetable production, is to address the big. I'm not saying that these are not big problems; these are huge problems, but the urgency is there. We should go to a more plant-based diet, and we can do that by focusing on plants, but we can also focus on what needs to be replaced. Sorry for this interruption.
Thank you, Ed, for the final notes and the plea for plant-based and a lens on how we use our land. Thank you, and let's mingle.
Hungry EcoCities, a START's residencies project. Find more information about the project at starts.eu/hungryecocities.